You don't look like a woman who scrubs dishes for a living." Ellie paused, fingers tightening around the coffee mug. Across the counter, Maggie's sharp gaze pinned her in place, reading between the cracks she thought she'd sealed. "And yet, here you are." The words lingered, heavy with something unspoken. Outside, Willow Creek's quiet hum carried on. Clinking cutlery, the low murmur of farmers swapping stories. But inside, Ellie's pulse thundered. She knew this moment was coming. Knew she couldn't stay invisible forever. Because sooner or later, the past always finds you. And when it does, it doesn't knock. It kicks the damn door down. Elena Ellie. Hayes was a name that carried weight. Etched in steel across skyscrapers, whispered in boardrooms, and splashed on the glossy covers of Forbes and Fortune. At 38, she helmed Hayes and Carter Properties, a real estate juggernaut that turned cities into gold mines. Her life was a whirlwind of private jets, billion-dollar handshakes, and a penthouse perched above Manhattan's pulsing veins. Yet beneath the tailored suits and steely gaze, Ellie was unraveling. Success had become a gilded cage, each victory hollow, each night sleepless. Her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows a ghost she barely knew. It broke on an October morning, crisp and golden, mid-presentation in a glass-walled conference room. Pitching a $2 billion coastal resort, she stopped. The room hushed as she dropped her tablet with a clatter, grabbed her coat, and walked out. No words, no glances back. The board erupted in chaos, but Ellie was already gone. She stuffed a backpack with essentials, jeans, a sweater, a dog-eared copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, and slipped out her old life like a shadow. She rented a battered sedan under the name Jane Smith and drove west, the horizon her only map. Tabloid screamed, "Ellie Hayes vanishes. Where did the Queen of Concrete go?" She didn't look back. 2 days later, fate intervened. On a desolate Colorado highway flanked by sagebrush and jagged peaks, her car coughed and died. The engine wheezed its last as dusk bled red across the sky. Ellie swore, kicking the tire, her breath foggy in the chill. Headlights cut through the gloom. A rusty pickup slowed, gravel crunching. Out stepped Daniel Miller, a broad-shouldered man in his early 40s, his flannel shirt frayed at the cuffs, his hazel eyes shadowed with fatigue. Beside him, peering from a passenger seat, was his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one floppy ear. Trouble? Daniel's voice was gravelly but warm. Ellie hesitated, decades of corporate paranoia screaming caution, but nodded. He poked under the hood, then shrugged. Starter's shot. Closest garage is Willow Creek. 20 miles. I can drop you there. Ellie weighed her options. The darkening road, the cold, the stranger with kind eyes. "Okay," she said, climbing in. The truck smelled of sawdust and stale coffee, a stark contrast to the leather and lavender of her past. Lily babbled about her rabbit, Mr. Flops, while Daniel drove in silence, stealing glances in the rear-view mirror. Ellie caught one and turned away, her walls still sky-high. Willow Creek unfolded like a postcard, wooden storefronts weathered by time, a single blinking stoplight, and a cafe called Maggie's Place glowing amber against the night. Daniel pulled up, tipping his cap. "Maggie'll take care of you," he said, then drove off, Lily waving furiously. Inside Maggie, a wiry woman in her 60s with silver hair and a smoker's rasp, poured coffee without asking. "You look like hell warmed over," she said, eyeing Ellie's rumpled sweater. "Running from something?" "Just passing through," Ellie replied, sipping the bitter brew. Maggie smirked, sliding a scone across the counter. "Sure, Han, dishwasher quit today. Help me out tomorrow and we'll call it even." Exhausted, with nowhere to go, Ellie agreed. She shed her old skin. Elena Hayes, CO, becoming just Ellie, a woman with a backpack and no story. Days bled into weeks. Ellie tied an apron over her jeans, learning to scrub grease from plates, pour coffee with a steady hand, and smile at the regulars, gruff farmers, eccentric artists, a retired sheriff with a penchant for bad puns. The cafe was a heartbeat, alive with clinking mugs, cinnamon wafting from the oven, and Maggie's raspy laugh. Lily became a fixture, coloring at the counter while Daniel fixed tractors or hauled lumber nearby. He'd linger, trading small talk, weather, Lily's latest masterpiece, his quiet strength a tether Ellie didn't know she craved. She rented a room above the cafe, its slanted ceiling and creaky floorboards a far cry from her penthouse. At night, she'd sit by the window, watching stars pierce the black, feeling something she hadn't in years, stillness. But stillness, she'd learned, was a mirage. The first crack came on a rainy afternoon. A black SUV rolled into town, tires hissing on wet pavement. Out stepped Jonathan Reed, her former advisor, his tailored suit absurd against the mud. He strode into the cafe, dripping arrogance. "Elena," he said, voice sharp as a blade, "you've had your little vacation. Time to come home." Ellie froze, a tray of scones trembling in her hands. The regulars glanced over, forks pausing mid-bite. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, setting the tray down. Jonathan smirked, tossing a folder on the counter. The board's imploding. Carter's driving the stock into the ground. They'll pay millions to get you back. He leaned in, breath sour with espresso. "You're throwing away an empire." Her pulse hammered, but she held his gaze. "I don't want it." Jonathan left the folder and stalked out, promising to return. That night, alone, Ellie flipped through it. Financials bleeding red, headlines screaming betrayal, a handwritten note from Carter, "You owe me this." She fed it to the fireplace, watching flames devour her past. But the past was a hound with teeth. Days later, Daniel burst in, his face tight. "Suits in town, asking about you," flashing cash and questions. Ellie's stomach sank. Investors from Hayes and Carter had followed Jonathan's trail, their eyes on Maggie's place. They pitched a luxury resort, condos, spas, a golf course, dangling millions to buy the cafe and raise it. The town buzzed. Some salivated at the cash. Others bristled at losing their soul. Maggie scoffed, stubbing out a cigarette. "They can kiss my wrinkled ass." But Ellie saw the worry in her eyes. The cafe was Maggie's lifeline, built brick by brick after her husband's death. Ellie couldn't let it fall. She dusted off her old instincts, sharp, ruthless, and got to work. She set up a coffee stand at the farmer's market, struck deals with local bakers, turned the cafe into a hub. The townsfolk rallied, but the investors doubled down, whispering about eminent domain and legal pressure. Then came the first twist. Late one night, Daniel knocked on her door, rain dripping from his cap. "We need to talk," he said, voice low. He pulled a creased photo from his pocket. Ellie, at 25, fresh-faced, arm around a man who could have been his twin. Found this in Lily's mom's stuff. She died 3 years ago, but she kept it. Said you were someone she knew. Ellie's breath caught. The man was David Miller. Her first love, a carpenter with callous hands and a dreamer's heart. They'd split when her ambition outgrew his small-town roots. "David," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "My brother, Lily's uncle, died in a wreck 7 years back." The pieces clicked, jagged and surreal. David's widow had raised Lily, then passed, leaving Daniel as her guardian. Ellie's past had woven into her present like a ghost thread. "I didn't know," she said, voice breaking. Daniel's eyes softened. "He loved you till the end. Said you were the one who got away." The stakes spiked days later. A stranger slipped into the cafe, a wiry man with scar across his cheek, ordering coffee and watching Ellie too long. He left a note under his mug. "We know what you did. Sell or it's over." Panic clawed her chest. That night, rummaging through her backpack, she found her old phone, dead for months, now powered on, a single text glowing. "Check the news." She borrowed Maggie's laptop and found it. A smear campaign. Headlines screamed embezzlement. Millions siphoned from Hayes and Carter, pinned on her. Lies, but slick ones, orchestrated by Carter to drag her back or bury her. The investors weren't just after the cafe. They were enforcers in a vendetta. Ellie's world tilted, but she dug in. She called a town meeting, standing in the community hall as rain lashed the windows. "This is who I was," she said, voice steady, laying bare her past and the threats. "This is my home now. I'll fight for it." Daniel stood beside her, Lily clutching her hand. The town roared, farmers, artists, even the sheriff. pledging support. A local lawyer unearthed dirt on the investor's shady permits. A hacker kid named Riley hacked their emails, exposing blackmail. But the biggest twist waited in the shadows. One night, Ellie found a letter slipped under her door. David's handwriting, dated weeks before his death. Ellie, if you ever read this, I'm sorry. I took something from you. Money, a plan we made. It's hidden in Willow Creek. Find it. Her mind raced. They'd once dreamed of a cabin here, funded by a small inheritance she'd shared. Had he stashed it? She confided in Daniel, and they searched old barns, creek beds, until Lily, playing near the cafe, tripped over a loose floorboard. Beneath it, a lockbox. Inside, $50,000 in cash and a note. For our dream, build it. Tears stung Ellie's eyes. David had left her a lifeline. The climax hit on a snowy December night. The investors stormed in, flanked by a lawyer, their final offer laced with threats. Ellie faced them, sliding Riley's dossier across the table. Proof of their fraud, enough to jail them. "Leave," she said, voice steel, "or this goes to the FBI." They blanched and fled, snow swallowing their retreat. Spring painted Willow Creek anew. Maggie retired, selling the cafe to Ellie for a song, the deed trembling in her hands. "Don't screw it up, kid," Maggie grinned, then left for Florida. Ellie poured David's money into the place. New tables, a patio, a sign reading Ellie's place. It thrived, walls adorned with Lily's art, and that framed article, yellow but proud. Her bond with Daniel deepened. Quiet nights fixing the porch, laughing over burnt pies, watching Lily chase fireflies. One evening, under a sky blazing with stars, he knelt, a simple ring in hand. "Stay forever?" he asked. Ellie smiled, tears falling. "I already have." The cafe became the town's heart, a monument to second chances. Ellie wasn't just a survivor. She'd rewritten her story, blending David's dream with her own. With Daniel, Lily, and Willow Creek beside her, she'd built more than a home. She'd forged a legacy, unshakable and true.